Luis Rodriguez fought from 1956 through 1972, was a top-ranked welterweight middleweight from 1959 until the end of his illustrious career. In the 14 years that he was world-rated, he beat an unbelievable amount of top contenders, world champions. The two main reasons for his present-day obscurity are that he only held the welterweight title for a brief 47 days. He had the misfortune to have his career coincide with the equally great Emil Griffith's. They met 4 times. Griffith won 3 of 4 by razor-thin margins. Emil has been quoted in a recent Ring article as saying, "Rodriguez moved a lot. He was always busy, he threw a lot of combinations. He was more a boxer than a puncher hit move. He drove me crazy. I guess we got to know each other a little bit. Each time was a war, I had to make adjustments, always changing my style." Was he an all-time great fighter? I would say so. Stylistically, Luis was an extremely long-armed pogo stick, bouncing around the ring like a kangaroo, throwing blinding combinations in machine gun bursts. How's that for a mixed metaphor? As Griffith said, he was more boxer than puncher, but he had plenty of power, attested by his 49 KOs out of 107 career wins. Keep in mind, many of those KOs were against the top middleweights of his era. Rodriguez was never really more than a skinny 147-pounder. The list of champions' top 10 contenders, getting rated in those days really meant something. Near all-time greats he beat is staggering. Among the champions were Benny Kid Parrott, twice, Virgil Akins, Emil Griffith, the very underrated Curtis Coax, Denny Moyer. Some of the other top welters he beat were Isaac Laugard, Johnny Gonsalve, the also underrated Frederico Thompson, L.C. Morgan, Garland Randall, Charlie Austin. At the same time he campaigned as a welter, he'd jump up to 149-150 lbs. Take on beat top middleweights in his spare time. A partial list of his middleweight victims: Wilbert Skeeter McClure, twice, Holly Mims, Percy Manning, Benny Briscoe. He even beat him in Benny's hometown, Philadelphia, by decision no less. George Benton, Ernie Buford, Jimmy Lester, Tony Mundine, Vicente Rondon, Gene Armstrong, Tom Bethia, Joey Giamber, Reuben Hurricane Carter. Awesome. Yet, even boasting such a sterling record, Luis Manuel is today relegated to obscurity. As I mentioned before, the short title reign, the crucial crossroads losses to Griffith are the main culprits. Hank Kaplan suggests another, as he describes it: Rodriguez had a beautiful jab, it was so fluid. He had this little defensive motion where he made you miss by inches. He fought everybody. Remember, he was beating Nino Benvenuti when he got caught by a left hook, was so unspectacular, that's why I think he's not remembered these days. The old spit bucket respectfully begs to differ. I must have seen Rodriguez fight at least 30 times. Mostly on TV videotape. I saw him live twice, as he was a regular fixture on the Friday night broadcasts in the early 60s, before Gillette pulled their sponsorship. I found him to be an exciting if highly unorthodox boxer. When he fought the feared Reuben Hurricane Carter, he bip-bopped him into utter bafflement. At one point Carter was so enraged by the futility of trying to nail Rodriguez, he bull-rushed him into a corner, picked him up, actually tried to fling him over the ropes. What most fans remember, if they do at all, are his losses to Emil Griffith. Those two guys were so evenly matched that their fights were boring. In some ways their fights were reminiscent of the Leonard vs. Benitez bout. While highly dramatic, absorbing to aficionados, to the casual fan they were a snore. Luis never went into a fight looking for a knockout. Yet, when he got a fighter hurt, he was as deadly quick striking as a cobra. Otherwise he was content to go the distance. I never once saw him brawl. Guile, not testosterone, was his thing. He was also blessed with an iron mandible. His 3 KO losses were all at the tail end of his long career. The opponents were the great Nino Benvenuti, the near-great Curtis Coax, both who were in their primes. The third was to journeyman banger Rafael Gutierrez, when Luis was on his last legs. It gladdens what's left of the old spit bucket's heart to see an article like the Battle of the Legends between Jose Napoles Luis Manuel Rodriguez in the December '95 issue of Ring magazine. The three experts chosen to evaluate this particular dream match had peerless credentials. Angelo Dundee, who managed Rodriguez; Emil Griffith, who fought Rodriguez 4 times, Napoles once, one of boxing's 2 foremost historians, the other being Herb Goldman, the esteemed Hank Kaplan. Considering what a great fighter Napoles was, I think it's really telling that all 3 of the judges picked Rodriguez to win handily. Kaplan actually writes that Rodriguez was probably the most underrated lighter weight fighter of the past half-century. Wow. Hank Kaplan throws undue praise around about as often as Newt Gingrich attends Lollapalooza to mosh in the pit. Kid Gavilan and Jose Napoles are generally rated as the 2 greatest Cuban welterweights. But take a good look at Rodriguez's career record. Gavilan's Napoles pale in comparison. In fact, the old spit bucket would put his money on Lewis against any welter or junior middleweight of the past 50 years, with the exception of both Sugar Ray's Emil Griffith, who seemingly had his number. Tommy Hearns, Mike McCallum would be very tough calls. I can hear the gnashing of teeth, the howls of disdain from readers screaming, "Hey you dumb! Hashtag X hashtag XX. What about Duran? Basilio? Curry? Palomino? Napoles? Benvenuti?" Well, Benvenuti did KO Luis, very late in his career, when he was way past his prime. Even so, Rodriguez was winning the bout against a peaking Nino Benvenuti, when he was caught with a picture-perfect left hook in the 11th round. Nevertheless, I stand firm. I believe he would have found a way to beat any of them. A footnote to Rodriguez's story: few are aware of it, but Luis was a huge influence, in out of the ring on the young, impressionable, Cassius Clay. Both were trained by the venerable Angelo Dundee. The most obvious influences were the beautiful snake-like jabs they both possessed. They also had somewhat similar styles in the ring, the constant peripatetic movement, blazing flurries. They also shared the unusual ability to inflict severe damage while backpedaling. Another was their similar personalities outside the ring. Luis' happy-go-lucky ways, infectious grin, constant chatter with the press fans fit right in with young Cassius' modus operandi. Luis Manuel Rodriguez was an artist of the fistic canvas, a true master of his chosen craft.